Hey everyone, Bryce here with Adventure Audit. Today we're going to be doing a product testing video on the Anker Solix F1200. So today we're going to be going over the specifications of this unit, and we're also going to be taking it through various product tests for real world electronics that you guys would probably use yourself, so you have an idea of what this unit's actually capable of running and for how long. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Now, before we get back on camera, I want to go over a couple of the main specifications of the Anker Solix F1200, and I won't take too much time here. There's just a couple things you want to look out for when you're buying a power station like this, which is going to be the watt hours. So that's going to be expressed as a WH. So this one has 1299 watt hours is what it's rated at. In general, I consider anything below 500 watt hours really like an entry level power station, and anything above 1,000 is really where you start to get to usable power stations, which you can actually rely on running items through the AC outlet. A lot of the times, if you cheap out, you're only going to get an hour or two of runtime, and it really isn't serving its purpose in those cases where you might need it in an emergency. So if you can, swing for 1,000 watt hours plus. The other thing to look out for is going to be the battery chemistry. This is super important because it's going to determine whether you're going to get to use your power station 1,000 times or over 3,000 times. And what I mean by that is a traditional lead acid battery or a lithium ion battery can only last, in some cases, 1,000 discharge cycles before it's severely deplenished from its original rated power. And so if you look at a lithium iron phosphate battery, on the other hand, it can go up to 3,000 cycles, is what Anker is quoting here, and it can last much longer. And so, real quick, I just want to reference a third-party article here by lytime.com, and this is from a third party, and even they're saying the lifespan can be up to 4,000 discharge cycles for which would be more than 10 years, versus a traditional lithium-ion battery, which would be around 500 for 2 to 3 years. Now, I highly recommend you guys look at other charts, look at the pros and cons of a lithium iron phosphate versus a traditional lithium ion battery. Definitely stay away from a lead acid battery like a traditional car battery. Those are not good for power backups like this. It's not comparable. Another thing that I find ideal about the LiFePO4 batteries is going to be the temperature range. So it can handle quite a bit higher temperature and a lower temperature, but 113 versus 140 degrees for the LiFePO4 batteries. So when it comes down to safety, and if you want something that's going to last a long time, you definitely want to swing for a LiFePO4 battery. So this says LFP, but once again, that is lithium iron phosphate, which is also the same thing as a LiFePO4 battery. So whether you see LFP, LiFePO4, or whether it specifies and says lithium iron phosphate, that's what you're looking for. Those all essentially mean the same thing. So look out for that. Other than that, like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on the actual specs. What I want to do is just scroll down to this area here, and I'll let you guys pause it if you want to go over any of these individually for yourself. I'll just highlight a couple more, which is the pure sine wave inverter, which is built into this. That's another thing you want to look for high-end power stations. Almost all of them have it nowadays, but if you are going to cheap out and buy some random no-name China brand one, then you need to look at them and check their specs. Do they have a pure sine wave inverter? Do they have the LiFePO4 battery type? And once again, that's also clarified here within the tech specs as well. But specifically, to go back to the pure sine wave, what that essentially means is it's replicating the same frequency that a traditional AC outlet does at your home, just a regular power outlet. It's doing that same frequency in the Anker. And so basically, to dumb it down a little bit, which I am not a battery expert or a electrical expert in any way, but from my understanding, it's mimicking the same electricity that you'd get from your house AC outlets, and so it's safe for all your electronics like computers, TVs, and things that are a little bit more sensitive, right? So definitely look for the pure sine wave element if you are looking for a power station. Other than that, like I said, I'll let you guys just pause it here and look at the primary specs, and we'll get into the actual real world test. Alrighty, so the first thing that we're going to be testing out is going to be this typical household fan that I bought at Walmart. It's just a Lasco brand fan, it looks like. So we're showing 100% charge here, 2 days remaining. The reason why it says 2 days remaining, even though technically nothing is being ran, is because when you enable the AC outlet, that is actually running the inverter, which is built into the device. And so that's why technically, even though nothing is running, it does take up power when you have that AC outlet enabled. And that's why you'll also see there is a port to enable the car socket. And that way, essentially, when you're not using AC outlets, let's say you're just using the USBs, you wouldn't be wanting to run this because that runs a separate inverter, essentially. So anyways, moving on, what we're gonna do is actually power on the fan, and we'll show you guys how many watts a typical fan like this uses. Excuse me for this being so dirty. This is just one I found in my garage. So that didn't turn on. The reason why is because the AC outlet port isn't enabled. So let's go ahead and turn that back on. Fan just kicked on. Okay. So it says 16 hours. We'll let it stabilize. It looks like it's staying at about 36 watts, running on the second level setting of the fan. So that is gonna give you about 16 hours to 17 hours running a fan on level 2. Let's go ahead and check out level 3 now, which on this fan, it is the highest setting that you can do. Looks like we're down to about 15 and a half hours now with level 3 enabled. So now what we're gonna do is test out a TV. Alrighty, next thing we're testing here is going to be a 45-inch flat screen smart TV. So this is a Toshiba if you're interested. And so pulling up the display here, here's what we got. So when I first started it, it was at 35 watts, and it looks like it's still going back and forth now, because as I started saying that, it was at 25 and now it's at 35. So basically running between 25 to 35 watts, and that's going to partially change the math on the remaining time here. But overall, it looks like it is averaging out to around 18 hours for this smart TV. Now, do keep in mind, this is just idling right now, which means I'm not actually running Netflix or Hulu or anything like that. And so when this actually is running an application, I probably would expect another 10 watts or so. So realistically, we're probably looking at, I'd say safely, a 15-hour time remaining for this 45-inch TV. So we'll do another test now on a 55-inch TV. Now, one more last TV. This one's actually a 55-inch rather than a 45-inch like the last one. This is also slightly newer. This is a Samsung TV. So as you can see right now, clicking the on button, it's not doing anything. So it is truly unplugged. And we're also going to test the Xbox One here. So as you can see, that is also not working right now. So let's go ahead and power on the AC outlet. And then the first thing we're gonna test is the TV. So I just turned that on. So I'll give that a second. And there we go. She is on. So let's go ahead and check the display reading here. So this TV is pulling 85 watts right now, showing 9.3 hours remaining. The TV is still turning on all the way, so give it a second. Oh, it is just trying to connect to the Xbox even though it's not on. Real quick, I will open Netflix just to see how that affects it. So with an app loading right now, we're pulling 37 watts. So once again, really similar still to the other TV. As you can see, Netflix is still loading. Netflix is fully loaded now. And I'm just gonna play something really quickly here. Just so you guys can see if there's any change in the wattage output when something's actually playing. Like for example, one thing to keep in mind is the speaker. So I'll actually turn on the speaker real quick so we can see. So with something playing right now, we are running 48 watts, showing 14 hours remaining. Realistically, I mean, you should always round down on that time, but you are definitely going to get at least 10 hours of screen time, without a doubt, even with the output changing and being slightly volatile. I would definitely expect this to last for sure over 10 hours, and probably upwards of 12, honestly. I've always had pretty good accuracy with this, so I really wouldn't expect this to be inaccurate. Let me go ahead and turn off the TV for a second. And then now what we're going to do is turn on the Xbox. So this is only the Xbox running right now, no TV, and we're going to turn back on the TV here in just a second, but I just want to show you guys individually what the difference is. So as you guys can see there, we're pulling between 30 to 40 watts, it looks like. I'm going to let it boot up all the way just because the Xbox takes about a minute to fully turn on. So we'll just see if this goes up. I just once again want to keep track of individually the difference between the electronics. So the TV was about probably 35 to 45 watts on average. So it looks like the Xbox itself is pretty close to that. I think it's safe now to turn back on the TV, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. We're currently at now 90 watts. So you can see the Xbox is still booting up. Okay, looks like I am signed in now. And the Xbox is actually loaded. So one thing we'll do too real quick is actually load up a game. So let me grab my controller. And we'll boot up Descenders. So here's what we're currently at with both the TV and the Xbox turned on. So once again, the wattage is going to go up and down slightly, especially when you're gaming. The temperature can make a big difference. If you start to overheat, the fan's going to kick on. That's going to require more watts. Once again, if you're listening to something with a speaker externally, that's going to use a couple more watts. So overall, it looks like with a game running, we are at about 126 watts, and this is with a very light game running. So maybe a few more watts for something more like Call of Duty or Halo, something more demanding. But that is about what you can expect. 7.5 run hours approximately with both a 55-inch TV and a Xbox One running at the same time. All right, so the next thing we're going to test here is going to be this Ryobi blower. This is a 8 amp blower, as you can see, and ignore the battery difference since the last shot. I was actually just using this to blow outside for a little bit for something between shots. So now what I'm going to do while I have this out is show you what kind of pull this does on the Anker when we're at the highest setting, which is level 2 or 3 on this blower. So I'm going to put it to the highest setting, and you guys can watch the wattage output and also the estimated runtime. So as you guys saw there, that was the highest level that this can go to on the highest setting, and it was pulling a little over 800 watts there, and it was showing about an hour of remaining estimated time. From my experience using this, that does seem to be pretty accurate, so we'll move on to the next test now. Alrighty, so next test here, I have a Jetson Hayes e-bike that we have charging here. We're pulling about 90 watts, it looks like, and showing 7.3 hours remaining. This bike in particular charges in about 4 to 5 hours, so that does mean I would be able to get a full charge on this. So that is what you can expect when you're charging an e-bike. This one also, as another note, is a 48 volt e-bike, so there's a lot of them that are 36 volt as well. So keep in mind that's going to change what your output is. A lot of the times on the actual chargers themselves, they will specify what the output is going to be. So always look at your actual charger. But other than that, that is what you can expect for a e-bike charger. Alrighty, moving on to the next test, we have a light here. This is bright enough to fill up an entire room, like an office, so a small to medium room, and it is showing 1.1 days. As you can see, it does not show the wattage output here on the right side like it normally does. So the reason for that is on devices where they run under a certain threshold, it won't even show it. So the fact that it's showing 1.1 days kind of just supports that. It must be like 5 watts or 10 watts, something very low. So it looks like now we're showing 25.9 hours, 26.3, 1.1. So as you can see, it goes back and forth a little bit, but that is what you can expect with a typical light of this size. Alrighty, everybody. Well, that concludes the real-world testing that I'm going to do for this device. So hopefully that gave you some actual real-world examples of what you can expect with different household electronics. Ultimately, at the end of the day, almost all this information you can find in the actual product specifications of whatever you're about to buy. So if you're going to order a new TV, you can look directly in the product specifications to see what the wattage output is. So you can kind of get yourself an idea of what you can do ahead of time. You just got to do the math on it. Like I mentioned earlier, something that's going to be 100 watts, that's going to be able to be ran for about 11 to 12 hours. Something that's 200 watts, that's going to be 5 to 6 hours, right? So it just depends on what you're going to be running, but hopefully that helped you guys out. And I've had this product now myself for about a year, I believe, and used it during a couple power outages. So I'm not doing this review because I'm sponsored. It's just a product that I've enjoyed myself. And yeah, so I hope this helped, and be on the lookout for new content, and you guys have a good rest of your day.